Gravita, if you need a superhero, here I come, there I go. Now there I go, there I go. When you need me, you know how to let me know. Let me know. All you gotta do is holler. If you need a superhero, 'cause I'ma hear you when you holler. When you need that superhero. Yeah, Gravita. When you need me, all you gotta do is holler. Not for real, I'ma hear you when you holler. I'll be right there in my cape, FSK below my collar. Oh, trouble, want some trouble? Well then I'm double, let's get it poppin'. I got some issues I've been dealing with. About to lose my scholarships. Friends, family, loved ones, so you know inside I'm sick. You may think you're tough, but you don't know what you're about to get. I let it build up, then feed you all of it. No apologies, this may hurt a bit. No.
Hey, and welcome back to session 2. If everybody that's tuned in right now, please do me a favor. This is what I was afraid of. Starting a new session, we lost all those people that were watching us. So please share it out as soon as you get a moment so we can get that audience back going in here. I'm about to not waste any more time. We're jumping right into our next one. Remember, the art auction is live in this post right now. The email landing site's there. The place you can get t-shirts is there. The place to get comics is there. The place to donate is there. And I'm also going to give you a reminder because guess what? That's a part of branding. I'm sorry, Jam. I'm sorry. I got to cut you off real quick. Don't mean to be rude. Brian Dalton just sent us a one-up, and I have to announce this because this is so dope. He said he'll knock off 1% for each $100 we raise for the event today, and a max of 10%. So if you reach your goal of $1,000 today, I will give the customer 10% off their orders in November. 10% is the max. But if you reach 800 today, he'll give 8% to anybody coming to give him prints. So, yeah, let's get this. Hey, we just talked about Brian Dalton is a gem in the print industry for us indies, and he's giving out this discount. I didn't even ask him for this. I just said, come be on the show. He giving out discounts? Man, y'all better make it happen. All right, JM, let's go you, baby. I'm out.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Brian, page by page printing. That's where I get my stuff printed at. So, all right, everybody. I am J.M. Hunter, your host, but thank you to Freestyle Comics for having me and having our guest. We are going to do a panel titled Hues That Matter. So basically, in regards to color representation in the world of comics. And we have an awesome set of panels here today. So let's just get to it. I'll go ahead and briefly introduce them, and then they can tell you more about themselves and what they have as far as their creative pursuits. So we'll start with Newton. Newton, if you wouldn't mind, tell people a little bit more about yourself and what is your claim to fame.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Newton Lillevoix. I'm a comic book creator / writer. I'm known for Crescent City Monsters, which is a supernatural horror comic book, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Newton. And moving on to the real life Moana. I just posted some pictures of my daughter when she dressed up as that for her birthday, but back in the day. So, anyways, Moana, can you tell people more about you and what you are currently producing?
Hi, everybody. My name is Moana McAdams, co-owner here at Burning Spirit Comics. I am a children's book author and an editor for our series, The Wild Card Chronicles. I also have a side project that I just started working on with Mike Watson. And I'm about to launch my podcast, the Moana News Podcast, where I get to celebrate and highlight creators of color and the historical stories that influence their work.
Okay, and then moving on to Morgan. Morgan, if you wouldn't mind telling everyone out there who you are and what you got, available to everybody out there.
What's up? My name is Morgan Iverson with Fourth Wall Productions and Short Fuse. my claim to fame right now is Lumberjacks #1. With short that you can get at shortfusemediagroup.com. There's also a novel on Amazon called The Seventh and Last. That's like an origin novel for that comic. I'm working on getting the next comic out for my next series, Harlem's Renaissance. And yeah, you can find me on Facebook at Morgan Iverson or on Instagram and Twitter at The Lumberjacks. The E is replaced with a 3 though.
All right, awesome. And I'll just ask that the panelists mute their mics in between questions because some of you are furiously typing. I can hear it because it's no doubt your fan base is trying to reach out to you right now. So I want you to be able to still talk to them while you hang out with us too. So moving on to the person that should need no introduction, but we're going to introduce him anyways. And then he's going to do a better job of introducing himself because that is what he does, the hardest working man in comics, Victor Dandridge.
Hello, everybody. I'm Victor Dandridge, hardest working man in comics. As JM said, I am the mind behind Vantage In-House Productions, a self-publishing imprint that just celebrated 10 years of full-time self-publishing last week. Once again, if I can do it, you can do it. But thank you all for having me on.
All right, awesome. And moving on to last but not least, one of my mentors. Still working on that last assignment. I did do the essay, but I'm doing the comic, which is funny because this comic that I'm doing is related to this actual topic that we're talking about. So the John Jennings, Mr. John Jennings, can you please tell everybody more about yourself and a few of your many projects?
Man, thank you for having me. It's been a crazy morning here on the West Coast. Again, my name is John Jennings. I'm a professor of media and cultural studies and comics. I'm also a publisher and curator, best known for the adaptation of Octavia Butler's Kindred with Damian Duffy from Abrams Books. Also, Parable of the Sword, which just came out. We just put up a new book with Amani Latif's amazing Peep Game comic called Blues Man with Stuart Jaffe and Garrett Gainey. You can check that out right now. Let's see. I have a new book coming out with Nadia Corafor and the amazing David Brame in January, which is the first book of my new line of graphic novels called Megascope, Abrams Megascope. So that's just kind of like I also co-founded a few comic book conventions too. So, I mean, this is, yeah, I'm gonna keep it short, but this is great. Thank you for having me. I love talking.
Thank you. Yeah, one of those shows being SoulCon, which is which I'm happy to be a part of, along with Victor and several other people here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get to it. So basically, right now, Black and people of color and people of formerly marginalized groups are now considered a hot commodity. Right now it's good business for several entities, entertainment wise and content wise, but it was not always so. Prior to the current boom, one could say that proportionate representation in the world of comics wasn't always there. Specifically with black characters as well as characters of color. So I guess the first question to you all is, let's start with a little bit of a mainstream and then we'll pivot to the independent scene. But we'll go ahead and start with Newton. But the question to you all is, what was the first character of color that you recall seeing? Newton, I'm gonna ask you to unmute real quick.
Sorry, that was a Zoom moment right there. Yeah, so the first comic book character I ever remember seeing was Power Man. And, you could tell by my age, I'm still calling Luke Cage Power Man. But yeah, that was the first character I remember seeing in comic books.
Okay, and who, show of hands, who else was that as far as the first character of color, Black character? Was Luke Cage Power Man? No? Okay, cool. All right. So let's move on to Moana.
For me, it was Storm in X-Men.
Nice, Storm. It's about to be Omega level mutant, finally. So in the current whatever, crossover, something of sorts. I don't know. Give everyone a sword and all of a sudden they're a badass. Okay, moving on to Victor. Victor, who do you recall was the first that you saw?
So the first person that I recall seeing as a person of color, I still don't know how to say their name correctly. It's either Blood Wind or Blood Wind. He was an alternative form of Martian Manhunter as part of the Justice League, but I've never heard his name actually said. But it's spelled, blood, but W-Y-N-D. And I've never known whether or not it was wind, wine, what have you. But I came in with the Death of Superman, and he was a prominent figure in that. And that was one of the first, if not the first, person of color that I remember seeing.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was also the hint of who he was truly. Right. I remember that moment and going, whoa, who is this guy?
Yeah, when he gets caught in the fire and, Blue Beetle figures it out before Doomsday Mud stomps him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so, and then last but not least, John.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's probably Blood Wind, though, right? I mean, because I'm thinking like, is the cat from the Caribbean, or is he winding it out? I'm just.
I think like it was whoever Jean was coming up with. Like, oh yes, Blood Wind. I don't know if I like that name. Like it's I don't
Blood
know.
Wine Man. Anyway, a horrible Caribbean accent. Anyway, so I think it was probably. I think for me it was probably like the Falcon or Black Lightning for me, because I'm an old cat. I'm about to turn 50. So like, I'm thinking, it was probably one of those, because I remember like having the original like Black Lightning comics, in my collection, and also reading Captain America and the Falcon when it was Captain America and the Falcon. When I was like, who is this horrible artist drawing Captain America? And it was Jack Kirby, because hated Jack Kirby's work back in the day. Little did I know that I was very ignorant. So I had no idea.
Same here.
We all learned that, bro.
Anyway, never mind.
Yeah, between Jack and Big John, I mean, I don't think I think you have to come to a certain age or something, or until you.
No, when you start, when you become a connoisseur of comics, you start to realize, oh, these people were geniuses. Sorry.
Especially when you start drawing them yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Then it all becomes like, I got
you accidentally let the cross hatching fool you into thinking like, oh no, these guys draw better.
Yeah, no.
Right. Yeah, all the grimaces of the 90s, like the tight speed lines in between. Yeah,
but yeah, definitely like Black Lightning. I was really into Black Lightning back in the day too. I liked him a lot, and Falcon. I always liked the Falcon a lot. So yeah.
So fast forwarding a little bit, then DC had Milestone there in the 90s for a little bit, but then I still would wager to say that in regards to the proportion of DC and Marvel, the amount of white characters they have versus the amount of characters of color combined, I'd say it's still, for lack of a better, no pun intended, drop in a bucket, in comparison. And to me, from my point of view, it's more like the independent creators like yourselves that are creating characters and universes, that represent, us, as well as our various cultures and points of views and lens. Now there's been a recent signing of the two Brandons and a few other creators with DC's new event. But take me back to when you felt like there was a need for yourself as a creator to start maybe injecting more of yourself and your worldview into the industry of comics or creating. Let's start with Moana, and then we'll move on.
So I think I always felt like there was a need, because from my perspective, it's a double, right? Like it's a person of color and then also a woman too. So I think that's probably why I gravitated to Storm a lot, because she was someone who I could kind of relate to. And it's really important in media, main media, mainstream media, to have people of color, not just as a checkbox. The authenticity of the story is super important too. But it's important that we be seen, because if we are not seen, then in a lot of cases, it's not relatable, nor is it accessible to us, right? So it's hard to get someone to, buy in and be interested in a given product or, whatever we're creating, without that being there. Because I mean, for me as a kid, I was just like, why do I have to care about these stories? You know, in school, right? Like history, we get taught American history, right? And I'm like, okay, who is this George Washington, and why should I care? So it's definitely important. And if you talk to like a lot of creators, right, they'll always go back to who are their favorites as a kid. So for me, I'm always thinking of like, how do I reach these children and inspire them to create sooner than I came to this thing, right? Because I didn't become a creator until now, like in my 40s, right? And I want these kids to be creating from like in grade school, like, and teaching them like Victor does, right? Doing these classes and making important investments into our children so that they can, you know, even surpass us, right? Because that's, for me, that's always my goal. How can I help the next generation to leapfrog ahead?
Okay, awesome. I mean, yeah, great. In fact, let's just go ahead and move to Victor. You know, since you mentioned Victor, and Victor, you definitely do a lot within the community and with youth and everything like that. Same question to you as far as when did it become more important for you to make an impact and just kind of have, you know, more of your worldview and representation?
So I guess it's always been important to me. I think the most interesting part of it is that my worldview is not the norm of your typical Black creator. A Black creator is what I am. It's not who I am. So what I don't ever aim to do is to specifically create Black content. What I aim to do is create good content that can have a universal appeal. Does that sometimes lean towards Black content? Absolutely. I think the important thing is not to deny that aspect, but for me as a creator, I don't aim for that aspect. And that's something that's very unique, I think, in being a person of color in a creative field that acknowledges, like, full on representation absolutely matters. I think also how you're represented also matters. So it's not just the simplicity of being seen, but also being able to see yourself in a way that you don't immediately recognize. I preach that duality. I find the necessity of certain aspects of representation kind of off-putting. Like, I was the guy that didn't like Milestone as a kid, and the number one title that I tell everybody that set me off was Blood Syndicate. And part of it was, as a teenager in the early 90s, gang culture, even in Columbus, Ohio, was huge. And the last thing that I really wanted was to read about gangs in comics when I can see that in the newspaper. I could see that on the news. I could go outside on the corner and be experienced with that. I didn't want that. So because of Blood Syndicate specifically, I ended up shying away from the whole of Milestone because I knew that was an interwoven factor to it, and that wasn't where I wanted to be as a young mind, as a young creative. So, I think the closest thing that I ever had in terms of like do Black things for Black's sake, I was in middle school, and it was due to reading Tribe. I loved what Tribe represented because it was grown up, it was sophisticated, it wasn't the norm of what I was seeing outside. It was something different. But that was like the closest time that I could say, like, wanting to create something of Blackness for the sake of Blackness was me in middle school. But I got to a certain point where that became less of my personal creative goals.
Gotcha. Shout out to Larry Stroman of Tribe.
Intelligence, don't forget Todd.
Yeah. Thank you. I was going to say, somebody help me out with it. So I mean, speaking of less than, I mean, there's definitely was a deficit. And John, you and I are of the little bit of older nature, and I remember you talking about Daredevil and Captain America being two of your favorites back in the day. But still are. Still are. I mean, I still Captain America, is one of my favorites. Wolverine, is one of my favorites. But I mean, in regards to the deficit of characters, when did it become important for you to start like putting your your voice into this conversation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I came up in Mississippi, in the sticks. Like I came up in a very rural space, and I remember when comic books went away. Because for me, it's always been an access. What I mean by that, in like around 78, 79 is when the direct market is created, and then you can't get comics at the stop and go or like, stuff like that. And I remember that. And and I also remember like, ordering comics from like Bud Plant or like getting the free catalogs. I couldn't afford to comics anymore. It's the other thing is like not being able to afford them. So I was like, but I would look at stuff like The Watchmen. I didn't read The Watchmen until like much later. I didn't read like Love and Rockets until much later, but I knew what they were because I had the catalogs, which they would send you for free. You just have to like ask for one, like Bud Plant and like Mile High Comics and stuff, right? Yeah. So that's one thing. So I also thought about comics in a broad fashion very early on. Like I think I don't think I understood what a medium was when I was a kid, but I think I just love comics. So I was reading everything, like from superhero comics. I was reading Richie Rich, Archie, and I've always been like that. I always loved. I never picked sides. I'm not a DC or Marvel dude. I just like, I like great stories. But I have to say, like, because of the fact that racism is so ubiquitous and so baked into Mississippi, that I didn't realize that what a minority was. I didn't realize that, how Black folk were being treated in these spaces. You're just coming up and you're just kind of living your life as a kid. But I do remember the first time I realized I was Black, and that was after watching Roots, right? And I was like, oh, it was, of course, like, you learn that you're Black around, or that you're different around that age. So I had been like 7, 8, something like that. And I was like, what is going on with my life? And then, and I still wasn't really politicized over that. I didn't really think about like racial politics like that until I went to like grad school, because after I went to HBCU, I went to Jackson State University, which is like 99.99% Black. And then you go to University of Illinois and you're like, oh, and you realize like, oh my God, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here. Like, so I think that politicized me the way around aesthetics, and like I've always been a fly in the buttermilk though. I've always taught in spaces and been in spaces where I was like the only Black person. Like I was only the second Black professor to get tenure at University of Illinois in the history of the campus, founded in 1866. So it's like, for like art, for art was the first. I mean second, sorry. And so I started thinking about that a lot as far as like aesthetics. But as far as like comics goes, the first time I was thinking about independent comics, when I made the first version of the whole, which is like me and Damien's like, first foray into like doing indie comics. The first version of the whole was a white character. A lot of people don't realize that. Like we actually race bent our own character, my own character, And I think what it was is like, I just want to be considered like a Black, I want to be like a good cartoonist. And I was thinking from that standpoint. And then what happens is like, when I start really looking at like just media as a, as a whole, I realized like I could make 1,000 Black characters and we still be underrepresented. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why like when me and Damien started working together and we had similar politics, we were like, you know what, let's take this character to whole and actually let's really delve into representation. So the whole was actually like the first time I really started thinking about that. And then what happens is I start to like archive other artists, because first you have to create a canon, like who's out there making this work, and that's why Black Comics and the Black Comics Returns book came. And then of course, after that, you want to create venues where we can share information and empower each other. That's why the events start happening. And the next level is to start actually publishing and having a space. So I want Megascope to be a safe haven for people like ourselves to actually get out our work on a really, really big way to normalize all of our culture, you know what I'm saying? And that's still in the process. So that's kind of like my first foray, and that's kind of like where my head is right now. But I'm really a radical archivist. Like, right, one of the reasons that I want to work here at the University of California, Riverside, is we actually have one of the largest repositories for science fiction and fantasy. It's called the Eden Archive. And so very similar to what, was jumping off in Columbus with the Billy Ireland, we actually have a large repository of like sci-fi stuff, right? And I was like, you know what, we need to have a section where we're talking about artists of color who are making fantasy work and, stuff like that. So just keep that in mind whenever y'all are donating papers places, this is a good spot for them. So.
Definitely. And Newton, in regards to the deficit that existed in comics for representation, when was it that you decided that you wanted to jump in?
So I just want to echo some of what Vic said. So in regards to creating content on a universal context, so it's like, as a creator, first you want to create something that hits as many people as possible in a broad sense, because we're all human beings. We all experience some of the same things. So as a creator, that's where you want to base your whole foundation on, right? And that's something I agree with. And but for me, the starting point is within myself, my background. I'm Haitian American, so that's my starting point. So with that, so with comics, even so, you see a lot of black comics, right? People say, oh, there aren't really a lot of black comics out there, but there are a lot of black comics out there, right? You just got to look for them. So there aren't a lot of black comics or representation in the main media, but I'm not one of those people who really care about that. So just as long as we have our own foundation, we've always had it, right? Whether it's like movies, comic books, or whatever. Even back in the days, going back to like the 1940s, we've always had someone there or a group of people creating things that were for us, right? So you can always dip into that pool. So for myself, when I looked at it, I was like, okay, we're all black, but black is not just like, it's not monotonous like across cultures. I'm Haitian American, so there's things particular with Haitians that I want to kind of just embed in comic books too. So that's where it starts with me. It's just a cultural aspect, somebody who's from somewhere else, like Nigeria, they're gonna inject what their culture means. So for me, that's when I decided. I was like, okay, specifically, one of the things that really like touches a nerve for me is the religion of voodoo, right? So a lot of Haitians practice voodoo, but when you look at the media, it's portrayed as in always in the negative light, right? But which always which bothers me. I don't practice voodoo personally, but because I come from a culture that does, and I understand it, it really bothers me because it's not just even white folks that does it. It's even our own people, black people. I remember one time when Haiti had that big earthquake, and there was some comments on Facebook, and a black guy commented, "Oh, that's why the Haitians need to stop messing with voodoo." So I'm like, comments like that. So hit me really strong. So I was like, okay, we need to just change, or like we need to inflect, certain viewpoints of what, not just voodoo, but other things too related to African culture into what we're creating, and control the conversation ourselves. So that's when I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to contribute to this. I'm going to contribute my viewpoints, my voice in terms of my culture, and just maybe in other African related cultures too. So that's when I decided, okay, let me just jump in this foray here and voice my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, if not for you and Greg, who created his Nana the Were Spider, I myself wouldn't have been introduced to a more broader, more accurate perspective when it comes to voodoo and things of that African lore, especially as Moana indicated that we have a U.S. history that's taught in the education system that's not an accurate portrayal of the real U.S. history. Growing up, most of us weren't introduced to the real history in regards to Black history. I'm still searching and looking and researching and trying to learn about my own history, and then and I mean, forget about anything else as far as like Pacific Islander or other cultural stuff, like like Filipino, like I'm Filipino, Moana's Filipino, I'm Black, and then the rest of you all are Black, and I'm not saying I'm the nexus or anything. What I'm saying is that that there's a deficit in education as well as representation, and which is thankfully being introduced to all of you creators gives me more of a broader perspective. And the beautiful thing is that everyone here is trying to pass that down to the next, set of creators coming up. So I wanted to get Morgan in on this conversation, but we'll let Morgan get a little bit stabilized with the with this connection. But moving forward, okay, Morgan, we were asking in regards to when was your epiphany of wanting to be involved in the conversation and being able to bring your voice to the conversation, whether it be related to universal acceptance or just seeing yourself represented in the creative medium of comics.
I mean, I think it's probably twofold because many people know, like Danny Quick is my partner with Ace Blade and with Fourth Wall Universe and everything. And I honestly wasn't even I didn't grow up reading comics. Like I watched the TV shows. Like I used to watch Batman, the animated series. I watched X-Men, Spider-Man, like the stuff that would come on during the week. And I watched that, but I didn't grow up reading comics. And I only came into it initially because Danny said he had an idea for trying to come up with a universe, and he was trying to come up with names and stuff like that. And he asked me to come in, and I was like, nah, I'm good, because I didn't know. He hit me out of the blue with the idea in the first place. Like, I didn't even know what he was talking about. And then, I didn't know Black people did anything that had to do with comics whatsoever. So, I mean, it was a double whammy for me. I'm like, man, you're not about to have me on no nerd stuff. I'm already a nerd as it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just I guess, how blurs have become a thing. I don't think I knew that blurs was a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like being a Black person that's into nerdy stuff. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't know. That's how I initially came in, and then I started getting ideas. And I've always loved writing when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't. For a long time, I fell away from it. You know what I mean? I wasn't really into it. And when Danny started asking me to come in, the ideas started coming, and that's when stuff started clicking and whatever. And that's kind of that's how I got started. And now it means a lot to me, mostly because I got started so late and reconnected with my love for writing. That's where a lot of it comes in for me now, to be that type of inspiration, that bridge for kids. That it's never too late. Number one, it's never too late for you to go after your dreams. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how old you are when you realize or reconnect with whatever your dream was or whatever your love was. And I've loved writing since I was little, but like when I was growing up, at some point it just started falling away. You know what I'm saying? Like the stuff that I was artistically talented to do, me singing in school, like writing poems, whether it be poems, short stories, stuff like that. I used to love those assignments, but the older I got, I started playing football, running track. By the time I got to A&T, I mean, it was too much other stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? Like it was parties on campus and dope stuff going on all the time, and I just wasn't into it. But now knowing more so having a better grasp of African American culture and what we've been through as a culture and grown in this country and fought through to get to, that's something that I want to bring to the forefront. Also, to be able to, from a Black perspective, bring something to be broad spectrum for everybody to ingest parts of our culture that they're not otherwise going to be exposed to. Even Black people. There's Black people that just don't have the experience from other Black people. Like if you didn't grow up in the hood, you don't really connect with it. That there's probably problems, there's probably problems in the hood, or you've seen it in media, you've seen it on Baby Boy, or you've seen it in Boys in the Hood. That's your connection to the hood, but you can act like you're from it, but there's still a disconnection there. So I think it's important to have Black people from all walks as creatives that are able to put those type of stories forward, because it connects with more people, not just the population abroad, but Black people as a whole. So I mean, at this point, that's one of the places I'm looking to thrive in.
All right, you must be reading my mind, because I was just about to pivot, because we've been focusing on the past, and now I was going to ask about the present, and I was going to stick with you while we have you still. But you kind of just already hit on that. As far as my question to you all is, what do you feel is needed in present day, culture and comics and creation, and with the medium, as well as with the community? But Morgan, you already started us off on that. Unless you have any little bit more, do you want to weigh in on that? I'll probably move on. You also just recently came to comics within the last decade or so. And so, from an outsider's point of view, thank you for touching on that stuff as far as getting all walks of life, all parts of the community represented. Moana, you're also recent to comics, so same question to you in regards to presently, what do you feel is needed, within whether it be a community, industry, creative content, culture, whichever.
So I would say there's a lot that's needed. I guess creatively, kind of like what Morgan was saying, understanding the different types of cultures and the different types of walks of life that are connected into Black culture and Black history, and also bringing the connections to other people who have African roots but may not claim it, right? So like if you think about the slave trade and how that went throughout the world and where those people ended up, a lot of people also don't know, and I did not know until relatively recently, that there was a thriving slave trade in Hawaii as well.
Yep.
So not Hawaii, but like the Pacific Islands in general. And that was called blackbirding. And basically that started because the slaveholders who got basically ousted out of America, they moved their enterprises elsewhere, So I would see in some parts of Pacific culture where it was clear that there were Black roots, right? But then didn't necessarily understand that as a kid. So a lot of what drives me now is trying to, as I do my research, trying to identify those connections and understand, helping people to understand that like we're all connected. This is not a, this doesn't happen in isolation, right? And how can we share these experiences and build upon them to better form and understanding of each other, and find ways to combat a lot of the things that we have experienced throughout history, and do it in a productive way. And in addition to that, I would say also what's missing is a lot of how to do the business end of this, right? Like how can you operate it, in a country that's based on economics, right? And how can you leverage your community and your network to build up together that's beneficial for all?
As you said, colonization and slave trade do not discriminate when it comes to exploiting, people globally. Speaking of math and business, we're going to stay with the present, what we need to fill in the present day. But we're going to pivot with math and business to my friend Victor Dandridge, and then I want to pivot to academia with John, and we'll get to everyone. So, Victor, in regards to what I was talking about, would you like to build upon that?
Well, yeah, I think the absolute goal that everyone's kind of hit on already is the goal of building beyond a monolithic idea of what our voice is. We do have different cultures as Black people, as people of color, even, and so being able to present that to a market to say, both in a sense of representation of the individual, but also in the globalization of seeing yourself or having others see themselves in something that doesn't look like them. As Moana kind of talked about, the hidden Blackness of things, like our culture is everywhere. It is not a subjugated, separated culture from American culture. It is a part of American culture. And you can see that when you look at, Spider-Man, one of my favorite examples. With great power comes great responsibility. It's just a distilled version of the talented 10th. That's W.E.B. Du Bois's, philosophy, Black philosophy, but given to you in a manner that 3-year-olds quote it, without any question, and they understand. That's still Black, culture at play. So being able to create something where we have that universality, that's the goal here, to show those different places where we fit in, where other people don't know that we fit in, that people don't recognize that we fit in. I think, the Brandons that are working for DC right now is dope, especially if anyone literally approaches Batman from the perspective of a person who has survived gun violence of a family member. That's huge in the Black community. That's a perspective that we don't talk about with Batman, but it's 100% true of his story, and an easy way for a Black writer or Black creative to connect to that story, because it's part and parcel with a lot of the things that we've ever, struggled with in history. So, there's lots of great things that we can build upon to show that it's not just this one thread of our culture. It's many, many fingers off of many, many hands.
Nice. And then pivoting to the academic angle, I've seen the academic, I've become a part of the academic, the academic body in regards to comics. There's been an explosion. We talk about present day evolution and present day, I can't think of anyone other than maybe Frederick Adama and a few other people like Stacy, other than John Jennings. John, you're at the forefront of that. So present day, as far as what do you feel like is missing from missing or can be improved upon in regards to the medium or industry, or even in academia? Is academia the answer to that, or do you think it's
yeah? No, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's the answer. I think you hit it on all systems. All these different things are systems. Like when I say the academy, people are like, "What are you talking about?" Because it's a system. You know what I'm saying? It's a system, and every closed system has its own checks and balances, its own rules and regulations and stuff like that. And what I've been trying to do is be a conduit between being a maker, an archivist, and an academic, and try to bring those threads together as much as possible, because it's the same kind of thing that happens on a campus. Like, for instance, even the nomenclature of like the way that we teach stuff is wrong. Like, for instance, we have art departments and we have programs, we have, divisions, you know what I'm saying? I was like, that even the language is like, okay, we should, that's not how you learn stuff. And it drives me crazy. Like one of the hotbed topics right now in academia is like the idea of interdisciplinarity, right? So it means like basically learning different types of knowledge bases. So the sciences playing with the arts, and yep, very much so. Colonizer mentality. Thank you for that. Also, nomenclature itself, naming things, is also a colonizer. That's why I always play around with a lot of different like new names and stuff, because that's actually like, it's a type of agency, because the first thing that's going to start happening is you name it, you can claim it, right? That's biblical. Shoot. Anyway. So the first thing that you try to do is like, you want to break down those barriers. Like, because I have people that are probably working on the same thing in English and in women and gender studies. You just need to get into the same space and have these conversations. I'm doing a talk for a archaeology society I'm like a black archaeologist. Yes, I'm like, this is crazy to me. So
this was Stanford?
Huh?
This was Stanford?
No, this
okay.
Here. Her name is Ayana. I forgot what she's new faculty here, but she's a storyteller, but she's also an archaeologist and an anthropologist. Nice. So they're doing a storytelling thing. So that's one thing that academics need to do, is like break down the barriers. The second thing about representation is that we focus a lot on Black representation a lot when we talk about race, because the way that race is constructed, it's a Black-white thing, because white folk made up race. You know what I'm saying? That's a white technology, in order to, like, you know what I'm saying? We didn't make that up. We don't come out the womb saying, I'm a Black man. No, it's like, no, it's a learned response. It's a socialized response. And race is a relatively new invention, because it functions like a deliverable, it functions like a design, it functions like a product, or a prosthetic, and you know what I'm saying? So we don't have that much to do with it. It's useless to us in some ways. We're just trying to survive. It's like, here's this Black, deal with that. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can make something with this. I don't know what it is, and we try to figure those things out. That's why, as you have all said, it's like Blackness is not a monolithic idea, you know what I'm saying? Because you're bringing the cultural standpoint. I come from a Black Southern mentality. Most of my stuff is Black and Southern, because, the South got something to say, right? Like Outcasts, right? I know, right? Anyway, but I definitely think, because of the fact that when Blackness was created, it was created to be the antithesis of whiteness. You know what I'm saying? And so when we talk about critical race studies, a lot of times we focus in some ways too much on Blackness, and a lot of the other racialized ethnicities get pushed out. So I think there needs to be more focus on indigeneity, but people who are indigenous. There needs to be more focus on people who have been subjugated, who are Asian as well. Like, I love the fact, like, there's a comic book called Displacement, that's about the Japanese internment camps, right? Yeah, Whit Taylor, by the way, was editor on that. Whit Taylor.
Love that book.
So yeah, it's a great book, and it's kind of
introducing it to me.
like with Japanese internment camps. And so it's like, and the other thing is people of Latinx, Latino, Hispanic. That's what I love, the fact that I teach at a Hispanic Serving Institute. It's almost like a HBCU, but for like brown folk, is what UCR is,
Yeah.
So, our population is only 11% white, and we're like 27,000 folk go to school. So it's, and it serves people of color. So most of my students are folk of color from
Southern California.
Southern California, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I think are weaknesses, I think. But we are making ground. We are pushing forward. I teach 3 classes on Afrofuturism and 1 class on comics. Like I'm teaching a class on comics right now as an intro class to the medium, because I found that an artist teaching in a media studies program is exactly where I need to be, because of the fact of these limitations and stuff. Even in an art program where you think it's supposed to be very liberal, it's not. It's like, I am a painter, I am a sculptor, I am a graphic designer, and neither the twain shall meet. And it drives me crazy. And it's like, even when you're going through I'm going through like a merit raise right now, and everything has to be documented a particular way, and it drives you crazy. And that's one of the things, the limitations of the academy is like, there's very little wiggle room, so you have to create spaces. That's why laser, for instance, that, is so important with Aldama's, right? Because you a space where you are trying to connect with the community, right? That's why I work with there's a space here called the Culver Art Center, which is in the middle of Riverside, right? And it has an open, it has a gallery space that has like windows and stuff. So people can actually see art, without even going into the museum. It's a photography museum, and it's very much like in the middle of the community. They need to do programming around that kind of stuff. And I think that is also another weakness, is that there's this town and gown separation, right? The town that the university is in, and the gown, which is the idea of the academy. Those things should play together a lot more. All right. And so that's, I have a lot to say about that, but I'm gonna stop. But those are my main things.
I definitely feel they should be integrated. But you kind of, you hit on the head when it came to academia as far as the division goes, because it's almost as if their colonization of academia is by keeping it divided, they can therefore dictate where funds and budget goes, and what gets shortchanged when it comes to budget and the funds and money. It's usually the arts or the cultural divisions of departments. So
it's driven by capitalism. It is by capitalism, and so the sciences and things like that push it. But my whole thing is like, when you're successful, right? Like when you become quote unquote successful and you have the money to buy things, you buy things that entertain you. You buy things that you buy clothes, you buy like a car, stuff like that. You get a really nice house. All of these things start out on a design table. All these things start out as a concept and and then you make it, right? But those things are always downplayed. The humanities are always downplayed because we want to make people less human so we can slate and put them in slavery, but better. You must make better slaves. This is the last I'm gonna say. One of the most heinous things that ever happened to humanity is the commoditization of time. To tell people that time is equal to money is one of the worst things.
The 40-hour work week, the 8 hours. Yeah.
Too much. You know what I'm saying?
So archaic.
One thing that we've learned from this COVID piece is time is not promised.
Yes, we have.
Time is greater than money. Thank you.
Time, debt are these man-made constructs, so, and we're not living in a farmer, agricultural society anymore.
Computer, and I was on mute and yelling at the computer.
yeah, you were. So, but before I get you going on a tangent, I want to make sure I get Newton in on this. Newton, you kind of touched upon.
Wait. Before you go, I apologize. I gotta run.
Okay.
But this was an absolute pleasure to voice with all of you guys. I would have had more conversations.
I gotta get from the hardest. I thought I was the hardest working man in comics. I'm like, damn, really?
Listen. I'm just trying to be like you. Come on now.
All
the love. All the love. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much, Victor. All right. So, Newton, in regards to present day filling the void, you mentioned as far as spirituality and religion and things of that of that nature. Feel free to elaborate on that if you'd like, or if you see other holes present day that we need to consider filling, culture, community, industry, medium, or creatively, by all means, just the floor is yours.
Present day, huh? So that's a big question.
Niche
What's
down if you want
missing?
to.
Yeah. So I guess the way I would answer that question is just the idea of exposing people more to things that aren't in the mainstream, right? So, but my 9 to 5, I'm a IT consultant. I'm computer programmer slash cloud technologies, right? So I'm in the tech world, right? And when the internet came along, there was this promise that, oh, now you can be an independent person, whether that's a musician, comic book creator, writer, whatever. And now you have this broad base that you could be exposed to, right? So that was an exciting thing, and in some respect, you do see things like that because there are people who can create their own YouTube channel, SoundCloud account, or even comic book like we're doing, and be exposed to all these people. The one thing that I would like to see more, it feels like that opportunity is kind of closing in because you have platforms like Facebook, right? And it's really popular, but they run on algorithms, right? And so those algorithms now are controlling. So now instead of the internet being the promise of being open, now it seems like now it's more closed, right? Because now you have algorithms blocking you or preventing you from reaching even a wider audience. So the one thing that I would like to see more of is technology kind of fulfilling more of that promise, you know, filling that promise that, I, as a creator, I can go out on the internet and it would help me find my audience quicker, faster, than, the typical grind, the previous way where you would have to grind real hard for years before you even get acknowledged. So that's the one thing that I would kind of would love to see happen in the present day. Just technology helping us more. That potential technology just helping us the way that initially it sounded like, oh yeah, because like just like JM and John, we're about the same age. I think Moana and I too, right? I'm not sure about Morgan, but anyway, you guys were probably there when the internet was just getting, was just blowing up, right? And that's what they said, this whole promise. So I'd like to see that promise even materialize even at a bigger scale, or at the scale that they had initially promised.
Exactly, like innovation. They promised us innovation and free access instead of this cap and trade our data and our and our personal information. So speaking of innovation, when we look to the future, my next and last question, because we only have about 5 minutes left, is my question is, when you look into the future, despite what's happening here in the next 2 weeks with this election, hopefully when we look into the future, my question is to you all is what are your expectations looking forward? Look about 10, 20 years in regards to the medium of comics, creativity, our culture, our community. What are your expectations? If you could play psychic right now or precog, what do you look at in the future? I'm gonna start with Morgan, move on.
I personally, I think right now there are really important moves and advancements being made by other pioneers in the space. I think Tyler Perry's purchase and building of that studio is far bigger than we currently realize. I think the ascension of Jordan Peele, the activation of Michael B. Jordan, John Boyega. There's a lot of Regina King, Regina Hall, Kevin Hart. Like there's a lot of Black creatives that are out here that have put themselves into a space to be able to we know that the world and Hollywood especially works off of gatekeepers. And I think we're getting to a point now where some of those gates are controlled by people that have come up the same way that we're trying to right now. So in the future, one of the things that I'm looking forward to, I personally, you know, I'm just going to put it out in the atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? I want to write something with Jordan Peele, or have him produce something, have him see something of mine that would make him interested in working with me, or me working with him or through him, because that dude, him and Tommy Adeyemi, are like the top of the shelf for me. So I'm really looking forward to that type of collaboration and those gatekeepers giving us all opportunities to put our work forward and really leave a stamp on things.
Yeah, they're fans of the genres and the mediums that we work in. I mean, they're comic and horror fans and whatnot. You know what I mean? So, and there's definitely a synergy happening between you know, the people you mentioned and comic properties. Netflix is scooping things up. You know, I mean, how often every other week do we see another one of our family or extended family get optioned? You know, so that's a beautiful thing. Let me go ahead and pivot to Moana. Future wise, what are your expectations that looking down the line?
Well, oh, there's so much I want. I think what I would like to see is where we kind of normalize the indigenous perspective, and we're not doing it in a way that's like to check a box kind of thing, right? Where we have a lot of characters and you know, stories that have that indigenous perspective, and it just becomes a way of life, and it becomes more authentic, and it's more like you're, you know, talking to somebody, you know, like in the neighborhood, right? Like, hey, did you see this thing? It was so awesome, you know, and just continuing to expand that. I had another thought, but I lost it. But yeah, just building on that. I'll come again if I remember it before we end.
All right. Well, this isn't the end of the conversation. We're going to have many of these conversations because, as you stated, things still need to get normalized. You know, it has to go from fad to fad in the mainstream to being the mainstream. So the last word in regards to looking down in the future is going to go to one of our current advocates and pioneers of Afrofuturism, John Jennings.
So just kind of to piggyback off of some of the things that have been said, like Morgan was talking about, the idea of the gatekeeper is a huge thing. I've been looking at publishing, you know, so a lot of times the, you know, transmedia is looking at like they need content. Essentially, a medium is just it's a void that you fill with different types of content, right? And whether it's television, whether it's like cable, whether it's the internet, we're content producers, which means that, you know, we have value. The other thing is that there has been a mainstreaming of Black speculative culture across the board because of, as you stated, people like Jordan Peele, you know, things like, you know, Black Panther, like Us. The other thing is you have a lot of actors, as you were stating earlier, that have their own platforms now. Like Viola Davis is producing an Octavia Butler TV show. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and she's making movies. Like there's a lot of these people that have like publishing deals and have spaces, including myself. I mean, I have an imprint with one of the largest publishers in the world. You know, they are the first art book publisher, and they're a really, I mean, they publish Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You know what I'm saying? So it's, you know, they're a very serious thing. So there's never been a piece like this before. So I have become a gatekeeper in a certain way, you know, which is, and I'm looking for, you know, I'm trying to push as much stuff as I can through, because I know that there's diversity out there that needs to be seen. You know, it needs to be seen, right? And yeah, I mean, I have more stuff than I can get out, you know, because and none of these books have come out because of COVID. It's been crazy, but you know, I think the future of publishing looks really bright. I know for a fact that there are new executives in Marvel Entertainment, for instance, that are of color that are pushing different types of agendas there. That's why you're seeing some of the things changing there. Also, there's a sister, and I forgot her name. She was just made head of, I think, Random House, or yeah, there's a lot of like big executives now in publishing that happen to be women of color, you know, or people of color in general. Also, you have stuff like the archive space. I keep pushing that. So what's his name? Oh my God, he used to be over the Schomburg. I'm forgetting his name right now. He's a poet. He just became the head of the Black Museum, for the Smithsonian. Is of course, it's always been like a person of color, but this gentleman is also a creator of poetry and things of that nature. So and has a particular vision around archiving. So yeah, there are a lot of different spaces that are shifting around just publishing in general that I think are going to get better. I think that because of the fact that these properties are making money, they're making money, and at the end of the day, if you're in a capitalist system and you can prove that there is a precedent for something, what they call it, there's something you can compare it to, then you can keep pushing it. Because basically, at this particular point, when I started talking about Afrofuturism, or when we as a culture was talking about Afrofuturism, that's 10 years ago. That was a decade ago. We could actually document that. They are just now catching up to the stuff that we've been working on. So Black Panther was a watershed moment, but also Get Out was a watershed moment. That there is an audience for these particular types of narratives. That if you have more melanin in your skin, then you are definitely in at the moment. And actually, there was a big article that just came out from either Hollywood Reporter or Vanity Fair. I forgot what the vehicle was. Basically stating that if you do not make diverse content, it actually hits your bottom line.
Yep. So Afro commercialism is where we're at now.
Yeah. So it's and here's the thing though, and people are like, well, you're selling out. I was like, well, if you're publishing a book, you want to sell out, so you can make more books, right? So I was like, this is the space we're in, right? So you have to come to grips with that we're in a commercial space, People listen to who's successful. We have tastemakers and stuff like that. And hopefully they just have the right politic. Like I've actually had, meetings with Jordan Peele and his company before. And their heads are in the right place. They really are. They're trying to make some serious change, So that's what I have to say. I think basically this is not, I don't think it's a fad, because we've seen this happen before. I think that because of the amount of content that's out there and the fact that we actually have so many voices, there's space for all of this to do well. Right.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you all so much. We got to wrap this up here, but we could probably go on for
I can't. I gotta go
talking about that. So, yeah, thank you so much. I feel like Artist Alley is about to change. It's about to get when we get back into the doing shows. A lot of people are gonna have content. Not gonna be so much about prints. It's gonna be more about books and these properties. So again, thank you so much. Thank you again to Freestyle Comics. Go ahead and donate, and Mike already put all your guys' social media information in the comments. So thank you again, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Watson.
Mr. Watson,
Mike, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Mike.
You're still on mute,
bruh.
Yo.
Mute.
Over here. Oh, sorry. We're just trying to make sure we don't get any more of that feedback anymore that we got earlier.
Okay. Hopefully he's working on killing Carla.
Hey, we ain't killing Carla, man. You're gonna love what we do. Thank you so much to everybody that's on this panel. Again, big fans of all of your work, and I'm working with some of you guys, and hopefully working with some of you more of you in the future. Wake up, Morgan. You ain't dead. But it was a great panel, and I know you guys can go on forever. I enjoyed the conversation. We got to move on to the next one. But thank you for coming on out. And some of you are going to be back right for this next panel. So thank you, and I will check the rest of you out later.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, all.
All right. Bye, guys.
Oh my God.
All right, so we're here. It's going down. Oh, I ain't got no hat on. Damn, Brandy. So, we are here and we're back again. Why are we here? We're here because of Freestyle Comics. And what do we make at Freestyle Comics? We make comics. So how about I plug you? This is like my favorite trailer.
I think it's time for me to save the day. Grace. Y'all know what it is. A hot shot. Let
let me heat it up. My girl think that I'm creeping, cause sometimes I leave her stuck. I'm thinking in my mind, I'm just trying to save the world. But she always think I'm lying and be trying to lay with girls. Take a walk in your shoes, I would rather fly. I fight for justice and vigilance, you would rather die. Now I'm trying to shed a little light to the darkness. He trying to bring me down like a woman when she heartless. Hey, Mr. Watson, I got a couple questions. I'm hoping you can answer before I learn a lesson. So let me know. Tell me what it takes to be a hero, let me know. Tell me what it takes to be a hero, let me know. Tell me what it takes to be a hero, let me know. Just let me know. I think that I should ask Mr. Watson. I think that I should.
All right, that was the trailer for Hot Shot. That's a comic book you can cop right now. That is his icon, his logo he rocks on his chest. Hot Shot is a young man in college trying to prove to his girlfriend he's not cheating on her without revealing he's a superhero and not get kicked out of college because he's never there because he's a superhero. We're 10 issues in on that. I'm working on the next story arc right now. I'm over halfway done with pencils and inks on that issue, and it's going to be devastating. If you want to know more about that, tune in tonight for our after-hour panels that we got cracking or whatnot. But what I want to tell you guys with my colleagues here to the side is that the art auction has begun. It's up. And our first piece up there right now, as soon as I get to it, you know that's there. I used to work with her, so right. I'm trying to find it on. It should be coming up here soon. I was trying to do it at the same time. But it's an Avengers piece, so while I'm looking for it. Dan, you want to tell the story?
What? The Avengers piece?
The Avengers piece. You want to give them a quick summary of it?
Yeah, so, because it was so long ago, I believe that the story goes that there was a challenge piece. The gauntlet was thrown down between Mike and some friends from college. And that they were going to build their own Avengers team, and they were going to fight and see who won. So Mike, in Mike Watson fashion, decided to do a 5-piece spread and tell a story. So we carefully built out the Avengers team. We were able, as you can see, there is Batman there, the Amalgam series, the DC. There was a DC crossover with Marvel. I know they had Avengers and Justice League, so that made it fair game to pull Batman in. We also have Darth Vader in there because at one point Marvel owned the license to do the Star Wars comics. So, you know, we may have bended the rules a little to the advantage to try to win the battle. But as you can tell in here, this is the Avengers versus the dreaded. The creators that Mike was battling with here with this art was they all had dreads, and you can see they're getting massacred throughout this 5-piece just monstrosity of artwork here that Mike put together.
Yeah, so as Jay says, it's a 5-piece set. We did bend some rules, but this is it's 11 by 17 each page. It's on the auction right now for $200. The link has been placed in here. I'll place it in here for you guys again. I'm going to be putting up. So this is it all together. One of the pages I'm going to give away for free because it is damaged. But the whole piece right now, $200. You guys can go over there and bid on it as soon as I put this link in here. And we're going to be introducing another piece here. This one's going to be live until 4 o'clock today. So let me get my stuff together. Oh, there's so much commenting going on. Oh, here it is. We got the art auction link, and it is bam. What's up, Midori? Good to see you. You're on our time zone now till November. That's what's up. Here's the link to the art auction. You can click on that link, copy and paste it, put it in there, and you can put your bid on this piece right now. Veronica, let's hand us the piece that you worked on. Veronica did this in watercolor, and this is going up on the auction next. Oh, my goodness gracious. Check that out. That is going up on the auction right now. As soon as we get this panel rolling. That is gorgeous. That is Marky of Emerald Quest. Hey, this girl good. She good. She good at what she do. I wish I could be information. Oh, that would work. All right, so we got people dropping in here right now. I wish you could too, but you know, you're only here temporarily. We got to get you back here when you're permanent. All right, so we're going to remove that one. So yes, those are both up. Let me get a little screen grab of that so I can reference it. But that piece took me, I don't know, it took me like a month.
Something like that.
I was working on it at my job because I used to work with Danny. I would work on my lunch breaks, my lunch, my 15-minute breaks. I'd work on it. I'd work on my lunch. I'd come back home and work on it. We had a notebook of stories for each one of the characters, how they were connected, the designs for the Dreaded, their costume and stuff.
I want to say that's even the old Hotshot logo before it became an H and an S.
It is. It absolutely is. So Hotshot is in that bad boy as well. So that's why it counts. I wish. I felt that. You were supposed to. All right. So we are live right now, streaming across YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, and we are here for a very specific reason. We are here to raise funds to help us make more awesome comics. All right. So right now, let me tell you about, one of our sponsors, You Create Comics. They're a great line of comic book tools that help you learn how to make comic books. And we're going to plug them right now.
That's a big thanks to y'all. Peace.
Awesome. So if you are watching this thread currently right now, check out that You Create. They got a website and everything, youcreatecomics.com, and they're on Facebook and on social media. I use the tools all the time, like legit. What's that commercial for the guy who's losing hair?
I'm not only the president, I'm also the member or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm not only a comic artist, I use the tools as well. So I think you should too. But so we got in this thread, in this post right now, we got the links all in there. So to go get some exclusive FSK t-shirts, which are banging. We got some exclusives today that are not going to be up there anymore. So this will be your time to check them out. And they're on sale. Instead of $20, they are $13. Let me show you some shirts. I'm glad that DeviantArt page was not up. Man, that would be crazy. All right, so, and we got the Veronica exclusive Chibi Arts up here. The Vigilance is my favorite one that she's done. In the classic red, we have Titan and we have Hotshot. The shirt, instead of being $20, they are $13. I'm telling you, jump on them right now. We are all rocking these shirts right now. Like, we got these from TeePublic or TeePublic or whatever. Here's a one I'm just trying out to see if anybody likes it, but Denny J Quick did because he bought it. Hotshot with that symbol that just says "Just Do It." The villain shirt from the Indie Destruction War that we're doing, and this bad boy right here, which is exclusive, Dave Jackson art that we got. Oh my goodness, it looks so cool because it's new and fresh. Look at that bad boy. Check that out. After today, it will not be up there any longer. Go back. Then we got the marvelous FSK shirts, Hotshot, Vigilance, Titan, and Marky up there. And I got the Black Panther passing the baton to Hotshot. We got some cool stuff up here. Go check them out. The shirts, a good portion of them are on sale today. Those new ones I just described to you are on sale right now. Check them out. Let me remove that. And we got 2 exclusive prints for FSKDAY. They are $10. If you want them, all you got to do is make your comment in the chat. They're $10 and the shipping is $3. Here's the first one. I don't even know what to name it. It's just, I know what to name this. Hotshot saw a spider.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Or Hotshot saw a ghost, or Hotshot saw
They're out of barbacoa.
Something scary.
So this one's available. We print that out for you right now, and we'll get that shipped off. A couple of them already been sold today. And because Veronica's awesome, we have this exclusive Vigilance piece that she finished up and colored for us. And it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So both of these are available. And since Veronica's here, we're both going to sign this for you. I'll sign this other one for you. So they're $10 a piece. Shipping will be $3 on that. All right.
And right now we are at $298. So
$298.
$2 shy. So if someone can help us get to that $300 mark, that would be fantastic.
Hold up. Ugh. Hold up. Oh, there's my family. Can y'all see my password? Okay, good. We're at that, what, 298?
Yeah, we are right under 300.
Bam. I'm going to put it right there. I'm not going to fade coloring in all the way. Bam. We are at $298. Brian Dalton has also announced that he's giving us a discount, 1% for every $100 that we raise. So come on, let's make that happen. He's doing that discount for anybody that orders.
Right. So
it's not my discount; it's for y'all.
Yeah. So if you help us raise money, he's gonna kick that back to you guys as a thank you and give you a percentage off. Right now we're at 3% off. We can get it up to 10% off of your order this month in November.
Right. If we hit our goal of $1,000, that's the goal that we're going for. $1,000 today. Of course, you can give. We're asking for $1. That's it. Of course, you can give more. I'm not going to say no to more. Danny, are you going to say no to more?
I'm not going to say no to more.
Are you going to say no to more?
No.
Okay. Well, we're not going to say no.
Not going to say no to a share either. Help spread the love to your audience.
Absolutely. And if you don't want to donate, but you want to get product, go right ahead because we got this awesome website that I'm a part of. What's the name of that website? ShortFuseGroupMediaGroup.com. See, I couldn't even get it out. I'm so excited. ShortFuseMediaGroup.com is where you can get the books. And we're rocking 16 comics on that website right now. Plus tons of other ones and some new ones we just signed to the indie draft. That's right. We did an indie draft. What you know about that? All right, man. It's panel time. I've done enough hype. We about to get into it. What do we got here? Hey, there's some more of that trendy branding that I'm such a big fan of. Hey, Leo. Leo's still talking. Leo is still talking. Oprah's so happy. I'm so glad the stars came out to help us tonight, man. I mean, this is crazy, the support that we are getting today. It's just phenomenal.
Mel Gibson does not look happy to be here.
Well, Mel's not happy a lot. He just did a movie called Fat Man. So, I mean, he doesn't look too excited in that either.
Sure.
All right, let the panelage begin. Oh, wait. Andy, there you go. We got Andy. He's going to be our host today. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. I've been listening and sharing and doing as much as I possibly can. In fact, I'm ordering the T-shirts right now. I'll be ordering the comics as some gifts for my nieces and nephews because I got one nephew that is way big into superheroes. So I'm going to share that love of Hot Shot that I have with him. I got some nieces that are super into Wonder Woman, and I'm like, Vigilance, perfect. Heroes International, I got nobody, but they're gonna get it.
What shirt are you getting?
Actually, I'm gonna get the for me, I'm gonna get the Freestyle Comics with like the Marvel parody kind of theme on it. But instead of doing the Hot Shot blue, I'm doing purple because everybody knows me for my purple.
You're right.
That way I can be wearing it at conventions when shows come back to life. And I can, be out there rocking the FSK brand while still rocking my purple brand, which ties into my comics, The Manor and things like that. So
2 birds, 1 stone.
Darn right. And I'm getting the Hot Shot hoodie. Because I wear a lot of hoodies.
You do.
So,
what are we getting, baby girl? I put the Vigilance shirts. So you got a couple to choose from.
So Anna chose 3 shirts because she couldn't decide. She's gonna rock the Vigilance chibi, the Dark Vigilance chibi, and the which is the other one? Classic Marvelous Vigilance. And then my youngest daughter is going, like, she wants in on this, and she wants the Vigilance Brave and the Bold because Anna has, any of you guys who know my family, we are all tall, we're all skinny. So the like my 12-year-old stands to about here on me, and I'm 6 foot, so we're not short people. So she has outgrown her Vigilance shirt, and her younger sister wants it, and she's not ready to give it up yet. But it's not quite showing the belly button. It's right there though. Like right on the cusp. We can't do that midriff thing here. Like I got a teenage daughter You know, like that ain't happening.
I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, so we're about to get this thing rolling. Andy's hosting our panel, and we got some great ones on here, and we're about to get it going in 3, 2,